too. Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's as subtle as this. Like he mentions that one of the characters has a hip hop name. The hip hop name is Tone Deaf.
Tone Deaf.
Now, here's the irony. The character's real name is Amos after Buffalo. If your name is Amos after Buffalo, but you feel like you've got to take
a hip hop name is Tone Deaf.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not a throwaway thing. That adds depth and complexity to a story. And it makes you think. It's like, oh, that's interesting. But as one culture trying to assimilate into another culture.
Mm-hmm. Welcome to Wily Writers. Tonight we're recommending a book from our book club. In June we read The Only Good Indians by Stephen Graham Jones. Wily Writers is a group of writers. It's a community where we are all working together to improve our sales, to improve our books, and generally to improve our lives as writers. You can find us at wilywriters.net. So do stop by and check us out and maybe decide to hang out with us. The book club is a project that we started. My co-host. I don't really like the whole gender hostess thing. I don't know why. She's my co-host. My co-host Eunice Magill. Who is awesome and who is going to be here tonight with me to discuss this book. We're the only two that showed up tonight, so you get us. And next time, maybe people will see how much fun we have and more people will show up. So let me tell you a little bit about myself. I'm doing this in backwards order, apparently. I am a writer, an author. I have 3 books out so far. I am working on the 4th. It is in the Weirdwood series. Weirdwood is a world where it's modern fantasy, where in this town, everybody, humans and different races of creatures all live together. And it's not that big a deal, so it's not really a main topic in the books. It is mystery. So people are trying to figure out what's going on with deaths and other things like that. I have been a game writer for many, many years. I worked on Guild Wars 2. I worked on Control for Remedy Entertainment. Before that, I did tabletop gaming. So I have a long history with games. And I love games. And right now I have a little game company called Games Omniverse. We're creating a role-playing game. Adventure game called Danica Dyer, and that is a work in progress. Let's see, what else can I tell you? I think that's it. So I'm going to pass you on to Eunice so she can tell you about herself, and you can ponder how awkward I am at this. Eunice, take it away.
We've been having a good time all night long. That's good. Hi, I'm Eunice Magill, and I write as E.S. Magill, and I am an editor and a writer, and I've edited a couple of anthologies, The Haunted Mansion Project Year 1, and my beloved Deep Cuts, which I co-edited with Angel and Chris Mars. Love that. Done many anthologies of short stories, like California Screamin, edited by Danielle Colco. Cool book. And I used to be the reviews editor and columnist at Dark Wisdom magazine. I just recently retired from 24 plus years of teaching 8th graders English. So I'm really excited about my new life. We moved from San Diego to the Phoenix area. I have a lot of family out here. So that is a little bit about me. And I'm happy to be here with Angel.
Yay. I'm happy you're here with me.
Let's see. I've got a PowerPoint. Do you want me to share that with you?
Yeah. You made a PowerPoint? Oh my
Yeah.
God, you are the
Oh,
coolest.
I need you to give me co-hosting powers.
Oh, how does that work?
Let's see. Co-hosting powers.
Let me see.
I used to be able to find this all the time when I was a teacher. Let's see if I can find it now.
Oh, here we go. Make
Got
you
it.
a host. I bet this is
Okay.
it.
Make me a co-host.
Okay, so you're going to be the host.
You don't have a co-host option?
Let me see. I didn't see one. Make host. I can stick you in the waiting room.
I haven't been that bad of a girl yet.
I'll just make you the host and then you can make me back the host later.
Okay, we can do that.
Okay, here we go.
We're now transferring power. Oh, could be because we're live on here. That might be
Oh,
it.
that could be.
Yep.
Did it work? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it did. So this is what we're talking about. We're talking about the Only Good Indians by Stephen Graham Jones. That was the book that we chose for this month. So to get started, I want to show you his website.
Wow. I am so impressed.
That's the teacher in me. So you've got to check out his
I love
website.
it.
This is inspirational for any writer out there. His content is amazing. And let's see if it will go or not connect me. There he is. His site is called demontheory.net, and his content is absolutely amazing. I probably don't have the bandwidth to like scroll down. Oh, here it is. Yeah. He's just got, I mean, books, topics. I mean, how cool. I mean, look, his topics are slashers, comic books, and paleo. This guy is like totally unapologetic. How would you like to have so many books that you have to alphabetize them on your
Oh my
website?
God.
You know?
That's my dream.
And he's got all kinds of topics.
Wow, I wonder if he does this himself or if he has, what is that, 2008 M, 2008 B? What is that about?
Who knows? You know, if we see him
I'm
sometime
curious.
soon, we're going to ask him if he does his own website or somebody else is doing this. It is amazing.
Because it looks really good.
It
helps that he's so photogenic too.
No, you know, he's just too cool for the rest of us mere mortals. Right. So he is actually a professor at the University of Colorado. And I love the way he says that he's into werewolves, slashers, and zombies. I mean, yeah, as a university professor, you probably, they don't expect you to go around talking like that. He's completely unapologetic about, his passions in life. So that's really great. I did see that he is a member of the Blackfeet tribe of the Blackfeet Indian Reservation of Montana. Mm-hmm. So that plays a big role in the book. And there's a saying right here. It says, I love this part too. It says, if he could, he would wear pirate shirts and probably carry some kind of sword. My question for you, Angel, is what would you go around wearing and carrying if you could?
Oh my gosh. I'm kind of into pirate shirts too. That sounds pretty good to me, although I'm not so into the leather pants thing. So I imagine that he would wear leather pants with his pirate shirts.
Probably.
That's what I'm guessing. That or if I could get away with it, I really miss tube tops. I really do.
Do you really?
Yeah, I miss those.
If you're a guy out there, you don't understand this at all, but I fondly remember my black and white tube top from my high school days.
Yeah.
What was your favorite?
I had an orange one. I
Mm.
had an orange one that I just loved, and it had the little ruffle at the top,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and it was long, so it wasn't like a short cropped one. It was long, but it was just a tube top, and yeah, I often think of that tube top.
I, I don't know if I could pull it off anymore, but back in the day, huh? You
Yeah,
pull off,
I couldn't do it now. Yeah,
no,
no,
it would be kind of scary.
right? Yes,
So
yes. Oh,
I'm thinking for myself, I'm going for the full Blade look, black leather pants, vest,
woo, yeah.
long coat. you know, that I could probably pull off.
Nice. You totally could pull that off.
Tube top, not so much anymore.
Very nice. Yeah.
In my
Yeah.
head, I'm always wearing, looking like Blade. Not so much in real life. In real life, I look like a middle school English teacher.
Yeah. Yeah. Some of us do without even trying.
Oh gosh. So when I tell people I write horror and listen to heavy metal, they're like, "What? You?" It's like, don't stereotype, okay?
See, you don't look like a middle grade teacher when you're at the horror conventions though, Eunice.
No, I'm not. I'm
That's
not.
when your real personality comes out.
It is.
Uh-huh.
Do you feel that too when you go to
Yeah.
con
Oh
stuff? Do you feel
yeah.
like it's the real you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I can't talk about the things that that I do at conventions, at horror conventions and writer conventions that I at a day job, which I don't have a day job anymore, but when I did have a day job, I couldn't do that.
I could do it a little bit with the kids.
Yeah.
Most of the teachers just thought it was just weird. I mean, they liked me,
Yeah.
but it was just kind of like,
Yeah.
okay.
That's
You know,
just
they're
Eunice.
they're into Beyonce and I'm into Rob Zombie.
Yeah. Yes.
But
Yes.
when I retired, I kind of felt like I could stop living the sham. I felt like I was living like this fake life where I had to, be this English teacher, which I am an English
Yeah.
teacher.
Yeah.
I was driving along the road the other day and I saw this real estate sign and it said, too many features to offer. And something in my brain went, and I didn't realize it, but my brain had seen it, but I didn't register it. They had spelled two as T-O. So without even me realizing it, my brain
You caught it.
caught it and went berserk. And it was like,
Warning, warning.
exactly, danger, roll around with the danger. So the second time I drove by it, I looked at it, I'm like thinking, okay, so do I go home and get my Cricut and cut out some vital letters and go there in the middle of the night?
Stick it up there? Oh my God, that would have been awesome.
Or do I knock on the door saying, there's a big problem here?
Are you aware of the problem?
Yeah. Oh my God. I want to tell this person, I never buy a house from you.
God.
Never.
Oh my God. That would have been awesome.
Let's
If
have
you
a
and I
dinner.
lived together in like in the same place near each other, I would have totally made you do that and I would have gone with you.
Oh, I would love it if maybe I should get my camera out on my phone and go over there and actually do it or something. Cause, I can't live with it. It's like, it torments me.
Oh, I know.
I wake up in the middle of the night, I'm like, oh my God.
And if you got to drive by it every day.
Oh my gosh.
Mm.
I don't even know why I wear eye makeup. I just laugh and cry so much. Oh. Anyways, okay.
So I am looking forward to seeing you bloom now that you are retired. I'm looking forward to that.
As I told those other people, God help them. They always thought I was just ignoring them. They didn't realize I was just exhausted from teaching. And when you spend all day with 170 kids, the last thing you want to do is have any, interactions with any kind of humans after. So
little energy vampires, 170
yes,
of them. Ooh.
I have to say COVID was nice because we were down to 20. We only had to have 3 classes per quarter. And then Yeah, 3 classes per quarter and only 20 kids per class. What a dream.
Wow.
I probably would have stayed teaching. So it was the way it was always going to be.
I know. But I think that's more why people are so reluctant to go back to work, because they realize how much better things were for their lifestyle. We're getting way off topic here.
No,
But, you know,
this book is about living people's lives.
it is. Yes, it is. Yes,
It all connects.
it does. It all connects.
Since you
Yes.
and I have already read the book, I'm not going to read the little synopsis here that I got from sublimehorror.com.
Yeah.
This is a story of 4 men who grew up together on the reservation and had an encounter with killing some elk, and kind of had regrets about it and came back to haunt them later on in life. So you can read that at your own leisure. And let's talk about this for a second. So
yeah, good idea.
This is controversial, and I don't think you're Native American, and I'm not Native American. So, we have to be considerate of people when we're talking about their cultures.
Mm-hmm.
I don't get crazed about it. I mean, if we slip and say Indian, I think we're going to be okay.
Yeah.
But there is an article right here. It's from Indian Country Today, and it's 6 prominent voices in the Native, I'm going to say Native Indian. They don't really, Native Americans sort of like on the out for them.
Yeah.
So they talk about which term they prefer, and it runs the gamut. So you can, if you're interested, you could go through this and read through what they have to say. Pretty much, if you say Indian, you're okay, but for us, they prefer indigenous or native people. So when we're talking, let's try to stick with native or indigenous. And if you say Native American, Native Indian, it's okay. But if you go to a reservation, they call all of their reservations Indian reservations. So if you are from another country, you should know that.
Yeah. I think it's very complicated. And I know that I used to say Indian, and then somebody corrected me once, and this was years ago, and said, we don't really say Indian anymore. And of course, I don't think that person was actually indigenous. It was a white person saying that to me, which, doesn't discount what they were saying. They were trying to be, respectful. But I remember when it became Native American as opposed to Indian. And now I know I've heard recently that indigenous or native people is the way to go. So yeah, things change. Terminology changes over time, which is interesting for writers to be aware of.
I recommend this newspaper, IndianCountryToday.com. I have been reading this. It is fascinating. It's intriguing. And I just want you to see some of the topics. I did a search for Stephen Graham Jones on Indian Country Today, digital indigenous news. Right. And look at some of the topics. Red Planet, Native Realities, the world's only Native American comic shop, Kickstarter supporting Howl, an indigenous comic collection of wolves, werewolves, and Rougarou. Rougarou. Let's see what else it was. Beyond Sherman Alexie, a vampire writer Stephen Graham Jones, who's a Blackfeet. Native American live stream discussion on J.K. Rowling today on Al Jazeera.
Wow, talk about a cultural mix there. Woo!
That's why I had to show you. It was
Let's have a party and invite everybody. That's awesome.
Exactly. And there was some stuff about the Revenant, and then First Native Science Fiction Anthology showcases Indigenous imagination. Nice. So don't have stereotypes. don't have stereotypes. People love what they love, whoever they are.
It is true. It is true.
So with that being said, our first question is freedom to write what you want versus cultural appropriation. Now, before we start talking, I want to bring up this book review title from the Los Angeles Times. The title says, "A native horror story reappropriates a racist trope, the Indian curse."
Okay.
Writers are really confused. And just to let you know, this book did win the LA Times book prize. So no matter what this reviewer said.
All right. So this reviewer got fired? Is that what you're saying?
It's kind of like surprising. It's like, well, appropriate means that you are taking something without somebody's permission.
Right.
But to reappropriate means that you're claiming it or you're recovering it for your own use. So I don't know how Jones can reappropriate a racist trope. Well, if he does so, then it no longer makes it a racist trope.
Right.
I'm so confused.
And he's native, so. So it's not really even reappropriating. It's because he kind of owns that culture, right?
Yes. The term reappropriate means that you as your culture, you're taking back something that's considered racist. Sort of like the N-word, used amongst that group of people, and then
I see.
and then turned into something powerful amongst that group of people. So like taking it
I see.
And giving it a new power, a new life to it.
Right. Okay. So like legitimizing it almost, or making it less tropey, for lack of a better word, less stereotypical. Yeah, there you go.
Cliche.
Yeah, cliche. Okay, I'm understanding now. Thank you for explaining that. That makes sense.
So the question is then, do you think people these days, writers, are feeling a little nervous?
Oh yeah, I know they are. And judgmental as well. I have a friend who gets really angry when non-own voices people write someone else's point of view. And she and I had a really long discussion about this, because I am of the opinion that that's what writers do, is that they write other people's lives. It's just what they do. You imagine. It doesn't matter what you're writing about. If it's not exactly a memoir of your own experiences, then you're in someone else's head and someone else's life and someone else's body. But I know that there are people out there, and they're, I'm not saying that it's bad at all. I'm not criticizing them, but they do believe that you shouldn't do that. I've not had anybody be able to tell me where you draw the line yet, though. Like, where is that line? At what point do you cross that line into?
It makes life very limiting.
Right.
I mean, this conversation has extended to everything, to what's served in the cafeteria in a university, right? To what you can wear, to how you should speak. It's like, well, I think as long as you're not being disrespectful, you should have the choice to explore. I mean,
right. And as long as you do your research, right? If you really research it, then you're actually, kind of putting your heart into it and trying to represent them properly, which is, I think, the right way to go. If you're writing about a culture that's not your own, you have to do the research. You have to. And even at the end of the book, Stephen Graham Jones has I don't know if it's just in the audiobook or if it was in the paper book. I read the audiobook, Eunice read the paper book, but he has a section of, I guess, thank yous, in which he mentions that he himself had to do a lot of research to get this right, to get the reservation elements right. And that even once he was done, he wasn't entirely sure that he had gotten it right. You know, he still had some insecurities about that. So I think, you know, which is perfectly acceptable. That's absolutely not a criticism of him. I think we all as writers experience that, right? Where you get to the end of your book, you've revised it however many times, and you're still, you know, there's still going to be somebody who's going to tell you that you got this gun wrong, or you got this character voice wrong, or, you know, something like that. That's really common. But with cultures, you just have to be extra exigent. Is that the right word? Extra diligent. That it might be the right word. When you're researching. But I don't believe you should shy away from writing other cultures entirely. If that were the case, the only person I could ever write would be a middle-class white woman with red hair.
That would be.
And I would probably shoot myself.
Because it's very limiting, and that's not the reason why we.
Yeah.
Or,
you know.
We write to explore.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you write to imagine these characters and to walk in their shoes and to try to live through what they would and how they would react. On the other hand, seeing a book like this that is from a native person, a native writer who obviously has personal, I want to say experience, but that word doesn't cover what I'm trying to reach for. Has personality, has his self, his identity involved with this culture. It's so much better and so much richer than anything I could ever come up with.
Reading this book, there's no way I could have ever written a book like this, which brings us to this, you know, this idea that it's really important that everybody's voice gets a chance in the marketplace these days.
Yes.
And it's not just the white male voice.
Right.
My life is so much it's richer for having read this book and experienced this person's point of view, this person's identity, this person's self. These are some of this stuff. It's like, oh, you and I would never get away with writing some of the things that he wrote about. I mean, he's got things like calling like people like the bow and arrow version of an Indian, you know. It's like,
right.
Whoa, it's like, and
yeah.
So I think as writers, you can write about certain things, but only certain people can express things a certain way because they actually get to live it.
Yeah. Yeah.
We only have our own perspective. And how wonderful it is to get to experience something like this book and this world. I was constantly shocked, like every single minute. It was like, really? Wow. It was crazy.
Yeah. His voice is just beautiful. His voice is beautiful, and it's very richly Native American. Oh, there, I did it. Very, very Native people.
Yeah.
Doesn't quite make sense, but you know where I'm going with that.
It really
is. But you know, and at the end of the audiobook, so it helps in I highly recommend that anybody who wants to read this, read the audiobook, because the narrator did such a fabulous job.
Male or female?
Male. Mm-hmm. Male. And I should have written down his name. I'll look it up here in a little bit, and I'll make sure and put it in the show notes. But so a lot of Native people actually have an accent, and they have a different rhythm to how they speak, a different cadence, I guess. It's almost musical, really. And the narrator, I don't know if he's Native, but he pulled that off for this book, and it brought it so much alive. And then when Stephen Graham Jones speaks at the end, he has that same cadence, that same kind of, it's very evocative of just native people, the way he speaks. And it was beautiful. I don't know how else to say it. It was just, it really sucked me in. And
I'm intrigued. I'm going to go get the audio.
Oh, I think you would really like it. Yeah.
Good audio.
Yeah.
Really?
It'd probably change sort of how deep you get into it all, because just the voice is having it in that accent, which it's an accent, a cadence. They use the same words we use, but the rhythm, the music of their language is different.
Sure, but you think of any culture, if you think of any type of Latinx speech, or you think of any Black speech, whether it's American or Caribbean or England.
Yep.
There is that beauty in language.
Yeah.
Well, now that we have solved this problem, Angel, good job.
Yay.
Write what you want and be respectful and do your research. That's what it comes down to.
It's just as simple as that.
Can you talk for a minute? I forgot to plug in my computer. So let's go on to the next question.
Okay. But everybody, Eunice put all of this together, all of these questions and everything. She has been just amazing. Thank you so much, Eunice.
You're welcome.
Really appreciate it.
That's the English teacher in me.
It makes all the difference in the world. Oh my God.
This might be a good thing to talk about for people who are not of the United States. This saying, the only good Indians, comes from this saying right here. The only good Indians, a dead Indian.
Theodore Roosevelt said that?
It's attributed to either Roosevelt or Philip Henry Sheridan, the General-in-Chief of the U.S. Army in 1883. Well, it was typical. I mean, that was the consensus back then. And I don't want to even say back then, even to now, people, the prejudice against Indigenous people is amazing. But what's wonderful is how Jones plays on this title. So he took this really horrific, racist saying, and he spun it into something good. So when you read it, it's like the only good Indians. So he took the power, he reappropriated that saying, took it back, and made it powerful. I bet you can put money on that before this book came out. If you did a Google search on the only good Indians, you would get that saying, the only good Indians, a dead Indian. But now, when I Googled the only good Indians today, all I kept was Jones's book over and over and over again. And it took a long time to find the original saying.
Yay.
Now,
bravo, Stephen, bravo.
Wonderful reappropriation.
That's a victory.
Yes, it is. I don't know if he intended that. We're going to have to ask him one day, but I think it's absolutely brilliant the way he played on this title.
Yep.
Yes,
indeed. Yeah, that occurred to me when I first started reading it too, that saying, I didn't know who had said it, but I'd heard the saying before. And
we grew up with it, didn't we?
We did. Yeah, we did. Yeah.
I mean, we didn't believe it, but we'd heard it so many times.
Yeah.
Probably in movies, right? Probably in movies. Cowboy Indians.
Yep, Cowboy and Indians. Yep, Civil War movies, or after the Civil War, the West, conquering the West, the wagon trains, and all of that people moving west.
big controversy in the Laura Ingalls Wilder books recently about the Indigenous people and how they're portrayed in those books. And it's like people were like ban them, and it's like no, like it's like take a step back. Let's think about let's not like anything too hasty, okay? Because there's
it's a teaching opportunity. You can talk to your kids when they read the book and explain to them why it was like that back then when those were written, and explain why it's not good anymore. People forget that there's those opportunities. I think they just want to burn it all.
And it's not good to burn it all. You need to look at the ugly. And you need to look at the ugly and experience the ugly to understand the ugly. Like today there was something really gross in my pool. And I was like, don't touch it, it's gross, it'll freak you out. And I'm like, I have to touch this thing and I have to remove it. And you know what? It was horrible and gross, but I'm glad I touched it because I realized I don't like horrible and gross things. And it was okay. So
that's a good thing to know.
Things that I think are ugly and gross, but that's life. You've got to look it in the eye and be aware of it because it doesn't go away.
Right. Until you make it go away.
This. Yeah. So the next question is about real horrors versus supernatural ones. And this Fox News host, he said this on Tuesday. The Native American land wasn't stolen. We won this land on the battlefield. Yeah, the things that people still say to this day, it's like, really?
The person doesn't understand history, doesn't know what really happened. We did. We stole it. It was stolen.
And it wasn't just the battlefield. It
was contracts and lying and
the slaughtering of people. I mean, in this next
slaughtering.
I'm not going to click on these. I'm going to leave these here for people to click on themselves. I'll make this available if you want to put it in the down below.
Yeah, we can do that.
But just slaughtering. There is one story where they called in a nation. We don't say tribe, say nation, and they brought in a group, and they beat them with clubs and killed them. That's not a battlefield. That's a massacre. That's a murder. That's genocide. And for
women and children as well, right? I mean, everybody.
All of them. Yeah. All of them. And all of them. And they were like the first, I think it was the Cree. I don't know, you have to go back and look at the article. But they're the first ones to sign a treaty too. And then they were treated like this. To see that in this day and age that we still have to contend with this kind of like crap that goes on.
It's infuriating. It's infuriating. And
the previous 4 years have allowed the ugliness in people to just surface.
Yeah.
Where somebody like this would have like maybe before like stayed under the rock and kept their mouth shut.
Yeah.
And now pretty much feel golden.
Well, and what's worse is that, it's Fox News, okay? And a part of me suspects that they're actually being incendiary on purpose. And I don't know, maybe he does believe this, but I think it's ratings. I think they do this for ratings, and what it does is it legitimizes that point of view. And it's criminal.
Think so? Could you do that?
No.
What kind of person are you? If you do this type of thing, you're not a good person. Whether you say something like this or not, you're not a good person if that's what you're going after.
I know. It's someone who doesn't want to lose what he's got, which is probably a fairly good salary. I assume it's a he. It could very well be a she on Fox News. They have both. Salary, following, Twitter followers, the whole shebang. It's
Well,
also fragile, though. You know what? Those people, what they have is so fragile because it can all fall down in a heartbeat, and they say this stupid stuff that makes no sense.
I don't know that they get to live in their own reality now these days, right?
Well, yeah, 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 yeah. But reality, you know, keeps going without them. The real reality is out there, you know.
No,
And
I think we live in two Americas. I think we live
yeah,
in reality, and the other people live in that other reality over there, where they make up all kinds of stuff. You
yeah,
know,
yeah,
like bamboo in the ballots out here in Arizona.
yeah, yeah.
They're
Yeah, that's kind of groovy, right? Bamboo and the ballads. That's kind of woo.
racist and crazy at
Yeah,
the same
that's
time.
right up there with Hebrew lasers from the sky. You know,
Wow.
like whoa.
So
I,
real,
you know,
real.
they when was it that they made pot legal?
Are you saying they need to smoke it, or
Ah, it might be. Something's happening. I'll tell you
you're
what,
gonna
because these
get
people,
the alternate reality to the real reality? I mean,
right?
Deb Holland here, who became the first Native American PT.
I know. How amazing is that? And have you watched her speak? Oh my God, she is awesome.
And she wore, she wore indigenous clothing, but the
Yeah.
hell that they put her through when they were questioning her, it was
Oh,
amazing. They just raped.
really?
Oh, it was awful. It was not
I
a
didn't
slam.
watch that.
Oh, I didn't watch it. I just kind of like heard about it and saw it from the periphery, and it was like,
Yeah.
can't we just like celebrate? Yeah,
Yeah.
first Native American, but no, we've got to be. Some people got to be bad guys and demonized. So the question is,
Yeah.
horrors or versus supernatural ones? Would you rather deal with some of the things today, or would you prefer like the deer woman, the elk woman,
The elk woman.
the elk woman with the elk head?
You know, my personal tastes lean toward the supernatural ones because after the last 4 years, I'm pretty done with real horrors. I'm feeling pretty exhausted by that. So supernatural ones at least have, you know, can still surprise me.
And they have rules that people abide by, right?
Right, right.
These real horrors don't abide by any rules. They just live in their own little vacuum.
Yeah, yep. Yeah, weird. Yeah. I don't know. I really enjoyed the supernatural element in this story. There were a couple places where I was confused. Like at one point he starts using a, a second person voice and saying you. Do you remember that part? It's in the later half of the book.
Is it where she is speaking?
No, he's talking when he says you, he's talking about her. He's talking to her. And that's probably the one critique I have about the book, and it could be my fault because maybe it's an audiobook, maybe I missed something that but he talks to her like, and you came up and you did this and then you and um and I at least didn't remember him doing that in the earlier part of the book at all. It was all third person, and then suddenly the you comes in, you voice, the second person. So I was just a little confused at that point, but then I caught on and I was okay, and I managed to make the transition with him. But overall, I really liked the bad guy, and I really liked how he handled that, and the elk woman. And
Yeah.
I really felt the emotions And
Could
she
you
was complex.
could you blame her?
No,
Or you couldn't blame her, could you?
no. I empathized with her. But at the same time, I empathized with the so-called good guys too, you know. Yeah, very, very complex, realistic. I felt very realistic characters.
Jones does a wonderful job of letting us see the real problems that, you know, the indigenous cultures have in this country, assimilating, being a part of it, not being a part of it. You know, that first, he says the book is divided up into 3 sections, and there's that first section with what is his name? Ricky Boss Ribs. The names are wonderful.
Yeah, the names are cool.
Ricky Boss Ribs and what happens to him, and how he knows that he could very, very, very easily get hurt, get killed, get in trouble because of the white people that are around him. And this throughout the whole book, we see all these problems. You know, everything from diabetes to you know, being murdered. We see he shows us all these real horrors, and then you juxtapose that with the supernatural one that they're contending with.
You see poverty, you see struggles to you know, just take care of your family. But there's always hope, right? They all have such hope. The characters are a combination of hope and kind of resignation to their situation. They're all very kind of stoic in a way. They're like, yep, I could die today.
Yeah.
Right? Which I don't know from personal experience that's a native sort of cultural thing, but I suspect it is. I watched this YouTube channel with a couple of native guys who talk about native things, and it's really fascinating. Oh my God, they're so funny, and I love watching them, and they're so full of heart, which is.
Do you know what it is? What it's called?
No, I can look it up though.
Be cool to say.
Hold on.
Think about living
and we'll give them a shout out.
Yeah, think about living a culture within a larger culture that is oppressing you. So many cultures, you know, microcultures within the larger culture have to exist with this. But I was reading where when Columbus landed, there were 10 million indigenous people, and now there's only 300,000 left.
Wow.
Death becomes a reality. And I don't know, I don't understand racism. I don't understand genocide. I can't comprehend it. It's like, what in your head has to be going on that you think it's okay to do those things, like clubbing women and children to death.
I know.
And Jones also does this great job of like, yes, they're indigenous people, but they're also Americans and they're also humans at the same time. And you get to see the whole gamut right there as real. These are real people. None of these people are cliches or stereotypes.
Yeah.
Which is amazing. It's amazing.
It is amazing.
For a few minutes, let's talk about some of the writer's craft and style.
Okay. Yeah, I love that.
I loved the use of, well, first thing I looked up is because in the book, he has his characters like think in terms of, or imagine things in terms of newspaper headlines. And then on one of the pages, there's actually a whole, like a newspaper article that talks about something that happened within the book. We don't want to give away too many spoilers. So I looked it up, and there's actually a very strong newspaper tradition on the reservations and in the indigenous community to keep them in contact and aware, just like the previous newspaper I showed you before. Mm-hmm. So because at first I thought that was strange. It's like, well, first of all, newspapers aren't popular today. Mm-hmm. they're going away, an artifact.
Yeah, with the internet. Mm-hmm.
So to have characters, think and imagine in terms of newspaper headlines. I said there must be a tradition of newspapers. Mm-hmm. So he does this mm-hmm. thing. He uses that as a device. And then he also has this thing where he uses myths and stories. So mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Notice when one character, I'm going to say it, the characters die. It's a horror novel, people. Okay, so people have to die.
People die.
People die. It happens in horror novels. Happens in regular movies too. Character, no spoiler there. When a character dies, when that character's alive, that character is telling their story. And Jones does this wonderful third person, not first person, and I'm glad he didn't choose first person, but a third person immediacy. You feel like you're right there. You feel like it's first person, but it's actually third person. That is a talent unto itself. But when the character dies, that character's life that becomes a story for the next group of people. And I was like, wow. And then
an oral tradition, not just a story, but an oral tradition.
It gets passed on.
Right,
all
these passed on.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So what did you notice?
Yeah. I noticed that. I noticed how he wrote some of his when he was talking about things that happened in the past, for example, as stories. Like at one point, there's the old man by the fire who's telling a story about, gosh, I don't even remember what the story was now, but it was something that had happened in the past. It was presented as a myth, but it gave foundational information about what was happening in the present. But what struck me and what stuck with me was the sort of his description of the grandfather of the elderly man who was telling the story, and how the kids that he was telling it to interacted with him around that myth that he was saying, and it just felt so true to me. Even though he was telling a myth, obviously a story, but that might have had, because this was a supernatural book, right? Might have had some foundation in reality in this book's world. I don't know. His descriptions in general were just so evocative and so, not just evocative, but rooted in the Indian culture in general. Maybe Blackfeet culture. I don't know enough about it to know exactly, but it was flavored throughout with Indian culture. All of the descriptions were so, I don't know, they just, it just, I could see it, right? I could see it happening. And he is, I don't want to say verbose because that makes it sound bad, but he's very literary in how he writes. And so it's not always a fast-paced adventure.
No.
There are moments of that, but there are large sections, sweeping sections where he's just describing somebody's life, describing a basketball game, describing people sitting around, friends sitting around talking, that sort of thing. But all of it is so complex and so...
it's layered.
Layered, yeah.
nuanced.
Yeah.
It's not a fast read.
No,
You
no.
you will need to stop. You will need to stop. You will need to process. And he uses terminology that sometimes he doesn't explain. He doesn't explain what it is. You would just better catch on and catch up and get on with the reading of the story because
Yeah,
Joe
yeah.
with you or without you, preferably with you.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah,
yeah,
including some Blackfeet language that he inserts in there.
which he says he doesn't know. He had to do research.
Exactly.
He had to do
Exactly.
research on that too.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
beautiful book.
Beautiful, beautiful. I'm so envious of his voice. When I finished the book, when I got to the end, and I cried at the end, I have to admit, when I got to the end, and this is not why I was crying because of the characters and the resolution of the story, but when I got to the end, I was so deeply envious of his voice
Oh,
and how strong it is and how vibrant and alive it is. And
let you, it has sort of a stream of consciousness to it, but it's very structured. It's very structured.
And it's in third person.
Yeah.
So it's third person stream of consciousness.
Immediate. You're there with
Writing.
them.
Yeah. And it's
It's
moment to moment, right? It's moment to moment. I mean, he skips sections, he skips time. But when you're in a scene, he's going moment to moment, and everything has meaning though.
who does
It's not
everything.
like he's calling out stuff that isn't meaningful. It all
Yeah.
has meaning
And
to the
sometimes it's
characters, and so to you.
sometimes it's as subtle as this. Like he mentions that one of the characters has a hip hop name. The hip hop name is Tone Deaf.
Tone
Now,
deaf.
here's the irony. The character's real name is Amos after Buffalo. If your name is Amos after Buffalo, but you feel like you've got to take
The hip hop name is Tone Deaf.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not a throwaway thing. That adds depth and complexity to a story. And it makes you think. It's like, oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
But as one culture trying to assimilate into another culture. I was on the couch. I finished and I just curled up on the couch and I just had to just lie there for about 30 minutes, and I really just had to think about what had happened, not just story-wise, but craft-wise, craft and style.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The middle of the book dragged for me, to the point where I almost gave up on it as far as overall plotting. And I was really confused when he made that first switch to after the first death. Well, the first significant death, I should say, really significant death, or 2 or 3 very significant deaths.
Was it the first one?
And then there was a switch.
Or the third one? Because the first one, like, we'll just let everybody know that poor Ricky Boss Ribs doesn't survive. Was it that transition or other transitions?
It was that first transition, I guess, to a new main character, to a new voice, to a new point of view.
Think about that.
I wasn't expecting that.
As far as story structure, I don't know about you, but I had to go back and read it and then go back to the news section, go, we have what? And then he does it next again.
And then he does it again. Yeah.
And does it again.
Yeah. The second time I was ready for it. The first time I was not. And so I was really confused. And I'm like, wait a minute, I thought this was a novel, not a novella and other stories. But he pulls it all together in the end. So I'm really glad I stuck with it. And I really encourage anybody else who's going to read this book to stick with it, because by the time you get to the end, it all makes sense. And the reason he switches characters like that makes sense. And so it's actually It's actually quite brilliant.
It is. It's a brilliant structure. It's unconventional.
It's unconventional.
And it's a little jarring at first, but like I said before, Jones doesn't apologize for it. He's just like, you better get on board.
Right. Yep. The train's leaving the station.
That's right. Trains do play a part of it, and later on in the story, we won't go into that part of it. That will just let you be shocked when Train Act comes along and stuff like that.
It was brave. It was a brave choice. It obviously has not hurt his sales. And I strongly suspect, I would be very surprised if there was not a movie about this coming out sometime.
Yeah.
If people are not making a movie of this book, then there's a problem.
It's too good. It's too good.
It's too good.
It's won a lot of awards.
Yeah.
It's won the Bram Stoker we don't say best novel. What do we say? The most is the terminology we use?
Oh my God, I should know this.
You should know that.
I write this phrase all the time. Superior achievement in novels. Yes.
The superior, not best, but superior achievement. And this is a superior
Which is basically best novel. He won the best novel.
Yeah.
Of the year.
There's been a lot of praise for it, and the praise is always tied up into the genre all the time. It's always like, good book, despite the genre. And I'm going to say, not in spite of the genre, but because of the genre. And I wish people would start understanding that,
Yeah. It's time that horror got a different reputation, right? Because, and this kind of book, this Jones book here that he wrote is a primo example of how horror can be classical, not classical, classic.
We know that. We've seen
it can be art. It is art.
When you're well read in the genre, you love the genre because you know at the heart what is really good and real in this genre. And he's going to do it. He's going to do it to people again. He's got a new book coming out. Let me see if I can get this up. And let's see. It is
coming soon.
Coming soon. And this is My Heart is a Chainsaw.
What a great title.
You've got to read the excerpt about it. It is about a little girl.
Oh.
And it's also an indigenous story on top of it. Yeah. And I think Jones is just taking everybody to the horror market. Like, let's go. Come along.
Yeah. Well, good on him.
Get on board.
Yeah. This is, I'm not surprised. He has skill. This guy has skill. And more than that, he has heart, which,
I've never met him. Have you ever met him?
No, never seen him. No, never met him.
I don't know. Well, from now on,
I know people who know him, so I'm like twice removed.
Me too. So, but we'll see if he comes around. And I'll hunt him down and
Yeah, I've heard he's nice. I've heard he's
when I was reading the acknowledgments at the end, he mentioned somebody, and I know this person very well.
There you go.
I was like, oh, well, how come you know him? I don't know him.
Right? Because she's her. I assume we're talking about the same person.
It's like, who do you know? Oh, I know this person too. It's like,
I loved his acknowledgments too, by the way. His acknowledgments were a story in and of itself.
They were
stories. I mean, it was, even the acknowledgments were so well written.
You were listening to it, but right here in the book, he has, if not, then write your name here in the acknowledgments and thank you, your name again.
Yes. So clever, so funny. I laughed at that when I heard it in the book too.
I laughed too.
Yeah.
It's got a very conversational tone. It's very poetic.
Yeah.
It's literary, but it's a conversational tone. But man, that's masterful. People, that's not an easy thing to pull off. Okay.
there's an honesty and a sincerity reflected both in the work itself and then also in that acknowledgement section.
Mhm.
It's just a
He was
it's
very
just an
humble.
honesty, yeah.
Very
That is,
humble.
yeah, and humble, yeah, 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 yeah.
So,
I was deeply impressed with this book.
so with this said, how many Wileys do you give The Only Good Indians?
5 Wileys.
I'm giving 5 Wileys too. Good job. Good job, Stephen Graham Jones.
Yes,
Give
I'm
him
really
5.
glad we chose this one as our first one to
I
do for our
did.
series.
And our second one is going to be Mexican Gothic by Silvia Moreno Garcia. Both of these
Yes.
were nominated for Best Achievement.
Superior achievement. Yeah, Bram
Superior
Stoker's.
Achievement for the Bram Stokers. And I think this one's an award-winning book too.
It is, yeah.
So
Yeah.
we're
I think
doing
it's
a
a bestseller as well.
bestseller. Yep, New York Times bestseller. Beautiful cover. Beautiful cover.
Yeah.
I'm halfway through it, so
Yeah.
we'll give this a try.
Yeah.
So with that said, let me turn it over to you.
Okay. Is this where we close it out, or what's happening right now?
You're gonna do.
I don't have my notes in front of me
Do
anymore.
You can do the closing. You can tell us.
All right.
Let me see if I can transfer this to you.
Well, we managed, as we usually do, Eunice, to talk longer than we said we were going to.
We're good at this.
We're good at this.
I usually don't talk to anybody. I'm like not a talker, but with you, I'm like blah, blah, blah,
blah, blah, blah. I know. I'm the same way. I don't know. You bring it out in me. I don't know what it is. So this is Wily Writers presents a recommendation. And we are going to be doing this on a regular basis. I don't know how regular, probably once a month. If we can pull that off, we will. That's the plan right now. So people are welcome to come and join us. If you belong to Wily Writers, if you're one of the members at wilywriters.net, then you are allowed to be on camera with us and help us discuss the books that we're reading. If not, you're still welcome to come and show up. There's going to be chat. We need to work out the technical elements of that, but whether it's a chat on Facebook or a chat here in the Zoom, I don't know yet. We'll have to see how that goes. But once we get more than 2 people showing up, next time.
No, you and I pretty much.
I know, we just might monopolize it if other people are here anyway, right? We just might. But that's okay. That would be okay. Yeah, so shy people can feel free to show up because Eunice and I got this. Seriously.
Well, I was worried, but man, we could just kept going for hours.
Right, right. I still feel like we're going to continue talking as soon as we hang up.
Probably.
But yeah, so please join us. We honestly, sincerely want other people to come and be with us. And the books that we're choosing are really worth the time. So come join us, please.
And join Wily Writers too. It's a fabulous organization.
Yes, yes. We're having a lot of fun there. Some pretty cool stuff. So that's good. Eunice, thank you so much for organizing all of this and for making it go so smoothly. I really appreciate you.
And I appreciate you and Wily Writers and all you do.
Yay. Good night, everybody.
Good night.